Okay, hello. I'm just going to do a very quick review on Tilman Fertitta's new book, Shut Up and Listen. Um, just recently listened to this one on Audible. It's definitely by no means the best book that I've ever read in recent times, but it's definitely worth a listen. It's definitely worth a read. I'm going to explain to you why, so just bear with me. Okay, so this guy, I think he's worth about 4 billion, something like that. He does a program on American television, $1 billion buyer. He's got loads of restaurants, casinos, stuff like that, loads of stuff. He tells his story quite sort of briefly in this book, but he's a real sort of high energy Texan. He reminds me a little bit of someone like Grant Cardone. Anyone who follows Grant Cardone and likes Grant Cardone will probably appreciate this guy as well. This guy, I think it's probably fair to say, is worth quite a bit more money. Not that necessarily matters. I think once you get up worth as much as Grant Cardone is, it doesn't really necessarily matter that much. But I mean, this guy is kind of in the billions, and he's kind of in the top 154th in America or something like that. But whatever, I do think it's really good to listen occasionally to these sort of people who get right to the top, because I think the advice they give can be, sometimes it can be a little bit irrelevant if you're someone who is quite small in your kind of entrepreneurial journey, and maybe you've got no intention of ever becoming crazily rich. And sometimes these guys, in fact quite often these people, are quite obsessive, maybe a little bit mental in a way, bless them. I think they're kind of so obsessed with making money that they're always going to make money. And actually you can still be successful in life without being quite as focused on the bottom line. But the impression I get from this guy, Tilman Fertitta, is that actually he sounds as though he's actually quite a nice person as well. It sounds as though he's actually got quite decent principles, treats his staff, treats people fairly well, treats them fairly at least anyway. He's very kind of honest and abrupt apparently, and blunt. But I got the impression, as you would from a book, I suppose. I got the impression that he's a fairly decent guy as well. There's videos of him being interviewed on YouTube as well. And yeah, some of the advice he gives, for me, there's nothing particularly new in there really. He talks a lot about the 5% or the 95-5 rule. So where basically he talks about paying attention to the small details all the time. So he is sort of known amongst his sort of peers and his colleagues, people, for he can spot a burnt out light bulb at 40,000 feet apparently. And if he goes into one of his restaurants and he sees something out of place, a smudge mark, or someone served a drink without putting a hanky down or whatever they call it, piece of paper, whatever it is, he's going to notice it. And so he says it's really important that you pay attention to the details in your business, that you don't ever become cocky and complacent. You're always worrying about your business. You're always making sure that you're keeping ahead of your competitors. You're keeping an eye on your competitors. And really the overall message is to treat your customers like they're always right. The customers are always right. You do whatever you can for the customer. You take no out of your vocabulary. It's kind of high energy. It's only about 3.5 hours long, this book. And I think he does give some good advice. One of the things he said that grated a little bit with me, he said about having your business cater to the masses, basically, and making sure that the more people that your business appeals to, the better, which kind of goes against some of the advice of the other stuff that I've listened to recently, which is probably a bit more relevant to someone of my kind of size in business, really, where quite often the advice is make things a bit more niche, kind of don't worry about appealing to everyone, appeal to the people that you want to appeal to, and kind of design things the way you want it. And that way you don't have to capture everyone, but if you capture enough people and you do it well, then you can be successful, which for me is a bit more relevant. But he's talking about being a multi-billionaire, and I suppose the only way you really do that is by coming up with something that is going to cater to everyone, is going to impress everyone, and you're going to get those big numbers in. So that's fine if you're determined to do that. But for me, that was one bit of advice that I kind of took with a bit of a pinch of salt. But yeah, good book. I quite like the way it finished as well. There's a chap at the end who talks about him as well, and talks about his experience of Tilman and how good a bloke he is and stuff like that, and links him to there's an astronaut who's written a book. Off the top of my head, I can't remember his name. I'll edit it in afterwards. But yeah, he kind of knew him loosely, and that's quite interesting. And yeah, like I say, definitely not the best book I've listened to recently. I listened to this one on Audible. I won't necessarily be buying the hard copy of it like I do with some books when I'm really impressed, but it was good. It's definitely worth a listen. And like I say, if you're someone who enjoys that sort of Grant Cardone, that sort of Texan kind of no bullshit, which I really like, to be fair, I've got a lot of respect for it. They're very sort of no bullshit. They just get on with it. I think we could do with being a bit more like that in England quite often, to be honest. Although, you know, we're English, we've got our own qualities, I suppose. But yeah, he's got that real sort of Texan kind of no bullshit, get on with it, get it done. And I think that's quite good. It makes it entertaining as well. He's good to listen to. He's got a good voice. He comes across like he's a good bloke. It's a good book. Definitely recommend it.